Good evening, everyone. I'm Doug Hoy. I'm the CEO for the National Community Pharmacists Association. Thank you for being on our Finish the Fight campaign webinar tonight. Just a little bit of background, and we're going to click through this and get to the good stuff here in just short order. This campaign is about payment reform so that pharmacies can be paid fairly, transparently, and predictably in Medicaid and Medicare. Those are the two areas. NCPA doesn't negotiate the commercial contract. We don't negotiate any contracts, but we do, using the voices of our members, have influence to Congress, which does control Medicaid and Medicare. Medicaid makes up 15% of the average pharmacy's portfolio of business. Medicare makes up 36% of the average independent's portfolio of business. That's over half of the average independent pharmacy's business are in these two government programs. And these government programs, in particular Medicare, they're killing pharmacies. They're putting pharmacies out, one pharmacy a day on average on the independents and two pharmacies a day on average in the chains. We've got to have change here, and NCPA has been working very hard during this entire Congress to get legislative reform in Medicaid and Medicare, and we've made a lot of progress. And Ann can talk about that when she comes up. The reason we're doing this campaign is the response from independent pharmacists to Congress has been outstanding. Over 20,000 messages have been sent to Congress from independent pharmacy owners in the first quarter of 2024. It's outstanding. When we had our fly-in just a couple months ago, there wasn't any office that was saying, "What's a PBM?" or what's the issue here? They all knew it, and that's because of the great work of our members and NCPA using your voice as its megaphone. But Congress had a chance to include these PBM payment reforms in March in a spending bill, and they didn't do it. And so there is some hope. There's still a lot of hope that this will get passed. But as we looked at our strategy going through the rest of this year, we said we need another voice at the table. We need consumers and patients to be raising their voices at the table. In addition to our pharmacy owner, small business members, we need the consumers and patients. So we asked our NCPA board. Our NCPA board, of course, made up of all independent pharmacy owners, just like our members. And we went to our board and said, this is something that it's a major investment, something that the board decided to dip into its reserves to be able to fund. But all of us said that on, say, January 1st, 2025, we don't want to look in the rearview mirror, and heaven forbid that it doesn't happen, and say, if we had just, we don't want any shoulda, coulda, wouldas. We want to put it all out there and give this legislation every chance to be successful and to pass and to be able to help our members. So that's the origin story. That's the OG of the Finish the Fight campaign. We've got more to share, and I think you're going to like it. I'm going to turn it over now to Ann Cassidy, our Senior Vice President and Head of Government Affairs, who does a great job for us. So Ann, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. And I think you did a really good job setting sort of the table there on where we are. Like Doug said, we're very, very close, but very, very close is not good enough. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So I know everybody wants to hear about the campaign, so I'm going to be quick, but I just want to talk about a reminder to remind everyone what we're trying to get done. As Doug mentioned, Medicaid and Medicare reform, and specifically with Medicaid, making sure every Medicaid managed care program in the United States reimburses at no less than NADAC and the state's fee-for-service dispensing fee. So that, depending on your state, that could be anywhere between $9 and $13. And even some states that already have it, I think this is helpful because many states that do have this, it's in regulations. So this would be in federal statute, so it would be protected. But maybe even more important, it would set the first national standard for a fair reimbursement model. And so many times where Medicaid goes, Medicare Part D goes, and commercial goes. So we think that's very important. And then the second priority for us is Medicare Part D contract reform and legislation that has passed out of Senate Finance Committee. It would require that CMS define and enforce, well, first define what reasonable and relevant contract terms are in Part D, because we all know right now there's nothing reasonable nor relevant about Part D contracts. And they can also consider reimbursements when they are defining reasonable and relevant contract terms. I think this is a really good piece of legislation because it takes away the whack-a-mole. It's a comprehensive approach, and stakeholders would have the opportunity to weigh in should this legislation pass before CMS put out any proposed and final rule on reasonable and relevant contracts. And there's a lot other pieces of legislation. I know that, I hear people all the time say, oh, I think I've heard there's 50 PBM reform bills, why just 2? Well, there's some other good ones out there, but we think these 2 provisions will have the most positive impact on pharmacies and their bottom line, therefore allowing you to continue to serve your patients. So with that, this is where the campaign comes in, and we want to get these over the finish line. And so I know what everybody wants to hear about is the actual campaign itself. So I'm going to turn it over to Jack Mosloom, who's our Vice President of Communications at NCPA, and Jamie Bowers, who's with Berman, who's the PR firm who has, headed up this campaign. So take it away.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. And thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited about this because nothing's more fun than a campaign. And no campaign is as important as this one is at this time. As Doug said, we're not going to leave anything in the locker room. We're going to go out and fight this right down to the end, until the end of the year, until New Year's. Congress has to pass this. And as he also mentioned, Ann and her team have done an extraordinary job. It's the reason why we're as close as we are to getting this thing passed. The one missing element is that we need patience on your side. So this campaign is primarily designed to activate your patience. We're going to use a bunch of tactics to do that, and Jamie's going to walk through a lot of that with you. We're going to geofence around all of the pharmacies and ping everybody with a device and then serve them content all over the country. Wherever they go on the internet, they're going to see our message. We're going to be on national cable television. We're going to be on cable television in the DC market while Congress and their staffs are here. We're going to be doing lots of earned media, op-eds placed in strategic newspapers, letters to the editor from all of you, we hope. We're gonna bombard the congressional offices with phone calls. So every angle that we can hit them with, we're gonna do that. So they won't be able to pull out of their parking spot without hearing from you or your constituents on this. Jamie is an old friend. We worked together years ago, and I've always admired their work. His firm is known for their edginess and their sort of mischievous sense of humor. And I spent many years laughing at their ads at other people's expenses. And I'm very thrilled that we have a chance to hire him to do this work. So Jamie, why don't you walk the folks through the fun stuff?
Sure. Maybe we can just, if you could, or let's see, yeah, let's go ahead and just put all of them up there. So one of the things I just want to start out by saying, we work on a lot of different campaigns for different clients, but one of the things that we try to use as our meter of what are we going to work on, and it's having clients that you appreciate their DNA, that they have the DNA to fight. And one of the things I've been kind of lucky to work with the NCPA team for probably 2 years now in some capacity. And NCPA and their members, you guys have the DNA to fight. This is not a corporate, you do not have a job. This is your this is your business. This is the food on your table. You're fighting for your family, for your existence. And so those are the fights we really like to get into because they're meaningful. And so when we do a campaign like this, one of the big things, we have three audiences, really. We have the legislators, the Congress, which is our kind of our number one audience. Our secondary audience is your patients and your customers because they care about it and they're the ones who are really going to put pressure on Congress. And then the third kind of smaller audience is the media. As Jack mentioned, one of our goals is to get things earned media, whether it's stories about the campaign or hearing from the voices of your customers as well as you, the member. So all of those work together to put pressure on Congress to let them know that it's time to get this done. And the good news is that they seem to be pretty bipartisan. They want to get it done. It's a matter of putting the pressure and being the squeaky wheel, because everybody in Washington has some sort of priority that they're trying to push for the rest of the year. We need to make sure that the NCPA, the pharmacists, their message rises to the top. And so how do you do that? So if we go to the next slide, which is the campaign logistics here. So as Jack mentioned, we launched our first commercial today, our first video, which is going on DC cable news. It'll run for a couple of weeks here. The whole campaign is 3 months, and it's a mixture of different things. We're doing digital ads everywhere. We're doing cable TV in DC. We're going to follow it up later in the campaign with national television on cable news. We're basically driving everyone to the letter writing system, the activation system that Michael Rule kind of heads up with NCPA to get letters to Congress. We're going to have calls going in. And we're trying to be strategic too about some of that placement so that we're making sure we're hitting the exact legislators that need a little prodding and to get over the line. And with our advertising, one of the goals that we try to do is to be unique and be memorable, because there's a lot of advertising that goes on, especially in Washington, that kind of ends up having this kind of vanilla, generic feel to it. And so we wanted to make sure that our creative for NCPA has either humor or is edgy enough that it will be memorable, because we don't want to look like everybody else's ads, and we want people to be talking about it on Capitol Hill. So next slide here, please. So one of the, this is some examples of the digital display ads. We are calling PBMs what they really are, fat cats. So we found some very fat cats to use on our digital ads. And as Jack said, we're going to have all of these available so that you can, some of these ads are printable in PDF form so that you can put them up in the store, point of purchase areas. Those actually have QR codes on them so that your customers can go right to those letter writing things. I want to give Doug a little shout out because the fat cat concept was one of his. And I think our team did a pretty good job of making it come to life. Next slide here is going to be our first commercial, which launched today. And so it was on TV in DC and will continue to be on TV through next week here in DC. And again, I think this will be a memorable ad for most of the people who see it. So if we can go to the next slide here. And if somebody can.
Doc, I'm not feeling well. These prescription costs, they're killing me. I feel so stressed.
I've been seeing a lot of this lately. Let's take a look. Oh, it's worse than I thought. PBM leeches are sucking you dry.
Pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, act as parasitic middlemen, inflating the prices you pay for medicine. Don't let drug middlemen drain both you and our healthcare system. Tell Congress to act now and help stop PBMs from leeching onto your wallet.
This is a problem.
So I think that will get people's attention, and I definitely think it'll be memorable. But one of the things you'll notice there is in most of these ads, what we want the message to be is to be a personal consequence for your customers. So this is not about necessarily helping their pharmacists. This is about helping them lower their costs, because at the end of the day, people are pretty self-interested. So we want to let them know that if they do this, they should want to do this because it's going to help themselves. So that's what our efforts are driving towards.
It's great. I hope you guys are happy with that. We're still laughing about it, and there'll be more to come. But like Jamie said, that's going to get people talking. It's very shareable on social media, and we want you to do that. We'd love for you to participate in this campaign with us, and there's multiple ways you can do that. One of which is to take all of this creative stuff that will be on the website, and you see the address there, and you can download it. You can print it and use it in your stores. That video you can pull right off of our YouTube page and share it on your own social media. If you want to spend some of your own money and advertise in your local markets, you can take that stuff and have at it. The most important thing that you can do is go to the grassroots portal and make sure you send a letter to members of Congress. Talk to your patients. I think you'll find that your patients they're on your side. They don't want to pay any more than anybody else does. And they're, Jamie didn't mention this, but we did some national polling as part of this campaign to gauge consumer sentiment on the behaviors of PBMs. And of course, you won't be surprised to know that most people don't know much about PBMs, but once we educated them, they're appalled by them, as they should be. So don't be afraid to talk to your patients and coach them up a little bit, educate them, tell them why it's important. Letters to members of Congress, letters to the editor, download all of the assets from our website and use them. If you have any questions at all, or you want to kick around a strategy that you're thinking about, don't hesitate to contact me in my office, and we'll get on the phone with you and talk things through. You can be your own spokesperson. If you can share this information, some of the data from the polling results that we have and the assets that we're going to use, if you could share that with local reporters who are interested in healthcare topics, that's a great way to break the ice and get them educated themselves, because many reporters don't know about this stuff. So use us as a resource. Please reach out to me directly, and join the fight. It's really the most important thing, and we're proud to be doing this on your behalf, and we're going to have a lot of fun between now and the end of the year. I want to introduce now Michael Rule, who runs our grassroots operation, and Michael's really the wrench turner in the office. He's the guy who puts the gears in motion. So, Michael.
Thanks, Jack. And just before I get into my remarks, just let everyone know if you have questions, please type them in the Q&A box, and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. But since January 1st, as Doug said, your response to our calls to action has been tremendous. We have sent, or you have sent, I should say, more than 20,000 messages to Hill offices. And really, your engagement has kept this issue at the forefront and really got us to the precipice in March, where we were on the verge of getting this done. And your continued engagement on our calls to action is really important moving forward. Just keep this front and center on legislators' minds. As Jamie mentioned, everyone in Washington has their own issue that they're going to be trying to get done at the end of the year. And we need Congress to focus on PBM reform and what community pharmacy is asking for. So, the Finish the Fight campaign is really going to amplify what you have already done from a grassroots perspective. Next slide. Since the first of the year, you have also really done a tremendous job engaging your patients. We have sent more than 6,500 patient messages to Hill offices. And that's unheard of for pharmacy. You've really engaged them over the last few months. We created a flyer that many pharmacies have hung in their pharmacy with a QR code that takes them to our letter writing tool, and patients are echoing, the need for PBM reform, the need for Congress to get their drug prices out of control, under control, and they need to do that. They need to really rein in PBM behaviors. The next slide. So while the emails and the calls to Congress are great in ways that they keep the message front and center, they aren't nearly as impactful as face-to-face visits with your legislators or your key staff. This year, they're going to be home, away from Washington. It's an election year. They're scheduled to be away the entire month of August, the entire month of October, and about half of November. So there's really a tremendous opportunity to invite them to your pharmacy and express the urgency of passing PBM reform and finishing the fight. Pharmacy visits, when they're in your pharmacy, that's where many of them have their aha moments. We've highlighted in QAM a few months ago a legislator who was in a pharmacy and doing the tour, talked to the pharmacist, and said, now I get why Buddy Carter is mad all the time, and I want to work with him on PBM reform. So giving those members of Congress that aha moment and really expresses the urgency of getting this done. So look for communications on the month of action, use our resources, invite your legislator to your pharmacy. It's a very valuable experience. We can help you plan the visit, give you talking points, and make it as easy as possible for you. And you'll find it's very, very rewarding to get your member of Congress in the pharmacy. So with that, if you have any questions on Grassroots, please reach out to me, email, phone. Happy to talk to you, happy to give you advice, send you resources, and really get you engaged. So with that, I will hand it back over to Doug.
Thank you, Michael. And we have questions coming in. Just as a reminder, send us some more questions. We'll answer those in just a second. Just to kind of wrap up some of the commentary before we get into the questions. One, just to reiterate that this is about PBM reform and payment reform, and it's from a truth, justice, and the American way, we want PBMs to be good actors, period. And we need them to pay pharmacies fairly. And this is legislation that would get pharmacies paid fairly so that we can keep our doors open to continue to serve the millions of patients we serve every week. Just no doubt about what we're trying to accomplish here. I just want to make that extremely clear. This campaign, if a lot of pharmacists, and I'll be showing this, our team will be showing this to groups of pharmacists, whether it be at state associations, perhaps at wholesaler meetings or other places, you'll be seeing this hopefully a lot. If the result is pharmacists high-fiving each other and that's it, well, then we failed. The results of this are, yeah, we want pharmacists high-fiving each other. We want them to be excited about it. We hope you are. And just some of the chats we're seeing in the box, you are excited, and that's great. But we have to get consumers' voices we want to drown members of Congress with consumer voices, patient voices saying, I don't want my drug prices to be any higher past this legislation. I want to underscore something Jamie said. These commercials, the collateral, the op-eds, we're not getting into trying to explain what a PBM is. I mean, all of us have been in the business collectively for 100 years, and we're still not sure what value they provide. So trying for a patient to explain that is going to be impossible. So we're keeping it very narrow and specific. PBMs increase drug costs. And as the polling that Jack and Jamie mentioned, that's the number one thing patients care about. It's a pocketbook issue, not a shock. It's like James Carville said, it's all it's all about the money, stupid. You know, it's all about the economy. It's all about pocketbook for the patient. So we have to activate activate them on this based on pocketbook. All of this, we've got the LDF. I mentioned we went into reserves for this. The LDF, some of you on the call, I recognize some of the names on the call. Thank you for your contributions to the LDF. Please keep those coming. We need support from the Legal and Legislative Defense Fund. It doesn't just fund this, it funds all of our legal, which we've been very active on the legal side, as well as on the legislative side. So, you know, just in closing, before we get to questions, that it feels good to throw a rock, but just throwing a rock is not going to get us over the goal line. And that's really what we're trying to do is get to the outcome of payment reform. So our pharmacies are paid fairly, predictably, transparently. And we can begin to grow our services and hopefully get some revenue on the service side, but we have to be paid fairly for dispensing prescriptions. So with that, I'll start taking some questions out of the Q&A. Or Michael, are you going to be the Q&A guy? Oh, we actually go back just a second to that slide because Eric's got some slides for me. Just as a reminder on the LDF support, just the uphill, it's an uphill battle, but the thing, so you can see on the chart here that, people who have more money than God, they're spending some of it and we're way outspent. They don't have patients and consumers on their side. There's not a patient and a consumer that hasn't been, unless they've been bought off, that's talking about PBMs. There are patients and consumers talking about you, talking about what happens if the pharmacy in their community goes out of business. So we need to use that resource that we have in order to match some of the money that they spend. Eric, next slide, please. If there is a next slide. Yeah. So this is the donation slide for LDF. You can do, for LDF, you can do business or personal, and much of the time, maybe most of the time, it's tax deductible. PAC money, which is also super important, has to be personal. But this one, LDF, you can do it from your business. So help us with this. Some of your contributions would be used, all be used for legal and legislative defense work, and to also extend the campaign. I think Ann or Jack or Jamie mentioned that we have a finite number of time. There is a finite number of time that we've purchased to run the ads, to do more ads, to run the op-eds, to do all the different tactics that we've touched on. And we haven't disclosed everything because, frankly, we know PBMs are sneaky and there's probably a mole that has snuck its way onto this call. And so we're not going to share all of the tactics on this call so that they can begin to prepare to counter against it. But there's more to come and we can do more with more resources. So please, if you're not already donating to the LDF, please do that.
Hey, Doug, do you mind if I answer one of these questions here?
That is exactly the next thing I was going to do. I would love for you to answer the question, Jack.
Well, Kyle Stevens asked this question. He said, PBMs and PCMA have much more money and will exponentially outdo us with public communication and social media. How do we deal? Well, our secret weapon is you. First of all, members of Congress know that this is a genuine grassroots organization. They know that we're just not some office suite with a few lobbyists in there speaking for big corporations. They know that we have thousands of members, all of whom represent many thousands more patients. So I think that anything that comes from us weighs more than anything that comes from them.
And I want to add one other thing to that, Kyle. I think the secret weapon here is what we're trying to do is engage patients.
Yes.
Like Jack said, when we all work together, I think we can do anything. And if we have, I'd love 100% of independent pharmacies out there engaging. Even if we had, 75%, it would be unbelievable. So we have things that they don't have and they can't buy.
And Kyle, we expect to get somewhere between 20 and 30,000 patients to send letters and make phone calls to members of Congress in the next few months. So that's a virtual avalanche. They're going to hear it. You're right about that. We're not going to ever have the resources that the PBMs have, but we have the real stuff, and that's you and your patients.
And I'll add, I mean, that's our goal, 20 to 30,000. And I think if that's all we do, we should be embarrassed. With 20,000 independent pharmacies, that's one patient per pharmacy. And as Jack mentioned, we're going to be going out to patients. So we hope there's a lot of organic responses from patients, not necessarily even having it teed up to them by their pharmacy. So, you know, I'd love to see 6 figures on this of patient responses, and there's no reason, you know, that's 5 per pharmacy, would be 100,000. There's no reason why it shouldn't be that high. So, you know, we don't have 20,000 people on this call tonight. We have several hundred, and do send this to your colleagues in your town over, college, pharmacy school classmates, get them involved. If they're sitting on their hands, tell them, stop it. Now is the time to get off your hands and let's get this done.
Yeah, the more you share this stuff on social media, the more it will be shared. And that's like having gold. The money can't buy that kind of viral exposure. Hey, Michael, one of our members is asking for that QR code again.
And the website.
I already answered that.
Okay, you did.
Yeah.
I think we got another question. I think it's really good. And I think, again, this campaign goes to that. Someone asked, when Congress hears that a pharmacy is closing every day, what is their reaction? So the reaction is they care. Especially independent pharmacies, they care. But you know what they really care about? They care about all the voters in their district. They care about patients having access. And so and again, they do care about pharmacies closing, but they want to hear from patients as well and other folks in their districts. And so again, that's why we think this particular campaign is just so critical to wrap this up. And when we say finish the fight, we're talking about finish this particular fight. This by no means is a silver bullet for everything. And I just, you know, I wanted to make that clear. I don't want y'all to think that we think this is the end all be all. It's not, but it's a great, great, great step forward.
Do we want to take maybe 2 or 3? There's a lot of questions. Some have been answered, some are open. And do you want to take, there's one about, and they say if the law is passed, let's change that to when the law is passed, how long will it take for them to go into effect?
Yeah, so this may not be what everybody wants to hear. Unfortunately, this is agency bureaucracy. So the Medicaid bill that would require Medicaid payments at NADAC Plus would be 16 months. And the reasonable and relevant contracts, so get ready for this, 2028. And but we were fighting for that to be pushed back. That's what they got out of committee. But when this passes, our next fight's going to be to try to move that up. Unfortunately, CMS has, you know, when Congress is putting together these laws, they ask CMS, you know, how much time do you need? And so that's always a difficult thing to fight. But I will tell you, we have already said when we get this passed, and it's not just us. And I was asked this earlier. I answered the question in writing is, are y'all working with other groups? I mean, we're multiplying this. We're working with oncologists, the rheumatologists. We're working with the big pharmacy retail chains, the supermarket chains, the independent grocers. I mean, everyone across the board, you know, to try to get this done. We talked to big employers about this. So it is not, the good news is it used to be y'all for so long, sort of, you know, the only folks really ringing the warning bell. And you're not alone up there. We do have allies. So I think that's really helpful. And I just want to remind folks of that.
Let's do this one from Dave about, are we prepared for PCMA running ads to fire up patients? Someone may have just answered that, but yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the LDF. We'll need that. Yeah, they have more money than they know what to do with, so they can throw money at this. They don't have credibility. They don't have your voice back in the district. But yeah, they've got money. So we need to fight some fire with fire, and there's no doubt that they will be coming back and spending money to say it's whatever they make up for that day, that's the cost, it's not them. So yes, we know there's going to be a counter, and again, that's an LDF type of support that can help us do more with some of these assets that we're creating.
Hey, Jamie and Jack, Bosley asked a good question, and I'm just wondering if there's any sort of metrics maybe we can report back, like we're here. I mean, I thought he had a good question. He said, will y'all provide any sort of targets or goals always drive campaigns? So that might be something interesting for us to consider as well.
We will know how many people are engaging with the content, how many go to the website, how many send letters from there. So we can track a lot of stuff, and we're happy to report this back to you guys. That kind of stuff we'll probably put like in QAM, maybe some news releases. So we'll announce periodically how the campaign's going, because we're going to want folks to keep thinking about it. So that's a very good idea, and I promise we'll do it.
Yeah, I wanted to mention there's a couple of questions from Dave Randolph, and he was the Dave's Pharmacy on the slide. So that's not only was he doing a pharmacy visit in August with Senator Fisher, but he's on the webinar tonight. And one of your questions has been answered, Dave. Are we going to do a national Facebook campaign like PCMA has? And Jack's answered that with his concise yep, that we will have social media doing that same kind of tactic. What else do we have that's open? Yeah, from Alan. Yeah, a lot of political figures. It's frustrating. You know, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, I have heard him say PBM once or twice, but there have been many times when it feels like he's avoiding saying the word. At the White House conference, the NCPA had two folks, Darrad and Chi there, and that Mark Cuban was that. The Secretary did mention PBMs by name, like say the three letters, but we do need more of that. We need the Biden administration, Biden administration 2, Trump administration 2, whatever is going to come in November. We need them talking about PBMs versus, pharmaceutical companies. Yep, maybe they have some culpability, but we all know that higher prescription drug prices are largely due to the PBM games. And I think the more we can remind politicians of that, I hope this campaign can help dumb it down a little bit. It's PBMs increase drug costs, because there certainly are a lot of counter messages that they're receiving. Maybe one more. Are there specific districts or states to focus on? And I'll answer that. Yep. Like Jack did. We're not going to reveal those states on this call, just simply because we don't want to give PCMA and the PBMs a running start, but they'll know it, and you'll know too. And we will definitely go directly to those targeted states where we'll be. This is a nationwide campaign, so we want consumers from all 50 and territories. But in particular, there will be some states that get a little more attention than others, and you can probably guess some of the reasons why.
Hey, Jack, I've gotten a couple texts sort of offline, and they wanted to know, could you announce one more time what the website is or the link and where it is?
Yep. It's ncpa.org/finishthefight. That's it. Finish the fight. So all one word, finish the fight.
Wait, do we have, yeah, here it is on the, yeah, so.
That's great. So we're going to wrap it up here. Appreciate the questions. We were able to get to many of them. We weren't able to get to all. We'll try to get to you at least individually. Michael, Jess, will we be able to answer some of these individually once we go off the webinar?
Yep, we'll be able to do that.
Terrific. Thank you for your interest tonight. Again, appreciate your interest, appreciate your contributions to finish the fight. Like Ann said, this isn't to finish the last fight, but to get PBM payment reform over the finish line. We're so close, and this is a tactic that we hope can push it over the goal line. So again, thank you for your membership in NCPA. Thank you for your LDF support, and thank you for your support of this campaign so that we get tens and tens of thousands of consumers contacting their member of Congress.
Go get them.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Show them those leeches, those fat cats, and there'll be more after that. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.